city of St. Mary's, Lord. Continue to bless us each and every day, and let us do, like I said, let us do the best we can for the city as, amen. That's good.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Councilman Jones, post 1.
I'm here.
Councilman Connor, post 2.
Present.
Councilman Ingram, post 3.
Here.
Councilman Nascimento, post 4.
Here.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Present.
Councilman King, post 6.
Present.
Mayor Lockhart.
I'm here, ma'am.
Sir, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And for the record, a unanimous vote is 6. So next item is the approval of minutes, but due to some technical issues when the packet was sent out, the size of the file, I believe some of these did not necessarily go and were included. So I'd like to ask for a motion to move the approval of minutes to our next meeting on the 17th.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have presentations. Our board announcement of vacancies. The Downtown Development Authority has a vacancy from Miss Sally Ann Bavacco. Balavko?
You did your best.
Thank you. St. Mary's Intercoastal Gateway Steering Committee, Mr. Bob Grudy. Board appointment vacancy for the Orange Hall Management Committee for Ms. Elise Pate. Board appointment, new board, the Tax Allocation District number 3 for the tab number 3 Advisory Board. We have 1 seat there. The board appointment term expirations, so we're still looking for a Camden County Board of Education, Sex Education, Instructional Review Committee member. The Hospital Authority, a position Patricia Stevens was in. The Southeast Georgia Consolidated Housing Authority. The St. Mary's Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority. Ms. Jane Alexander, and the St. Mary's Library Board, Ms. Denise Proctor. So if you have an interest in serving on any of these boards or committees, please see about submitting an application, and we would encourage you to do so. Thank you. So we now have our reports of authorities, boards, and commissions. The Finance Director's report by Ms. Marsha Cleveland.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. You have in your council packets the city's revenues and expenses through January the 31st, 2025, which is the 7th month of fiscal year 25. All the reports are on a cash basis. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a section on some of these reports that says fund balance on the income or revenue side. For example, on the Aquatic Center, it's $444,000, I think.
That, on the Aquatic Center, that is operating transfers in from
The
general fund. That is not, I'll have to go back and look. But that is a budgeted line item. If you look on the general fund side, there's an operating transfer out
Right.
to Aquatic Center, and that offsets to the Aquatic Center on the end.
So even though that's included in the budget, does that mean that the our tax revenues are funding the particular entity's budget to balance it when we do the budget?
What that means is at the last budget year, when council approved 2025 budget, when the Aquatic Center's budget was presented, there were expenses in that fund. I think y'all have hashed that out the past several times.
It was in excess of revenues. I was just curious
So
about how that.
in order to do those necessary upgrades and things to that, general fund, and it was approved by council, said that they would approve that $444,000 to fund those expenditures, plus anything else over and above that for the aquatic center.
Right, I think, in fact, there's around, I don't know, 700 and something thousand dollars in operating expenses, and then close to 200,000 in capital improvement projects, which came to around.
$260,000, yes.
Came to
That was
about 900,000. so I'm
That's
just
what it
trying
was
to
projected this
understand.
time last year, but as they got prices for things, as everybody knows, the prices have increased.
Right. I'm just trying to understand how the budget is done. So when you have expenditures or capital improvement expenses that exceed the revenues, we then approve a draw from the general fund operating.
That's at council's discretion.
Right.
Council's
And
discretion
it
at
was
that,
approved.
when it was approved in 2025, at council's discretion, that's what they voted on, to approve those,
Right.
those improvements. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, because we're getting ready to go into the budgeting process, and this is a small operation, so it's an easy example to use. But I just wanted to just make sure I was understanding that when we approach the budgeting process this year, we can either approve or not approve taking a draw out of the general fund.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Thank you, Ms. Cleaver.
Thank you.
All right, the St. Mary's Library Annual Report.
Hi, my name is April Jeans. I am here as a board member of the St. Mary's Library, just to share with you a few ways that the St. Mary's Library has been impactful on our community's residents. So Laurel, I'm sure most of you know that she is the newer director who is very passionate about her job. She's also passionate about the children. She, if you have not met her or seen her, she gets into character for community events like community events that I'm also the director of Family Connection Camden, that we put on for particularly trying to improve the lives of family and children who live in poverty. I'm sure that most of you are aware that 20% of St. Mary's residents are living in poverty. The St. Mary's Library offers a safe, nurturing environment, quiet environment that a lot of residents or young adults may not be offered at home, as well as free access to technology. And in this digital world that we live in today, it is a must for having access to the computers and programs that the St. Mary's Library offers. There was 185 public programs that they have right now. 27,933 visitors of all ages took part in the library programs, supporting early literacy, which is vital to the futures of our students and all residents in Camden County. And 50% of students who tested, their test scores were above average. 50%, that says a lot. So that goes with saying that the St. Mary's Library is vital in our community. So their computers were used 3,874 times on things such as applying for employment, taking classes, completing legal tasks, and more, and including registering to vote. And their Wi-Fi is available 24/7 from their parking lot whenever they're not closed. And this is only just a brief little insight of what the St. Mary's Library offers our community and how vital it is. And because it's all the time I have to share with you, there's much more. So thank you so much. And if you would like to know more ways to support the St. Mary's Library, any of us will be happy to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jean. All right, we will move forward with setting the consent agenda.
While we're doing the agenda, I would like to make a motion to make an adjustment to the agenda. Like we did in a previous meeting, something similar to that, but a little different to give a chance to respond to our city manager report. So I would like to make a motion to move the report of the city manager right after we set this consent agenda, and then move our granting audience to the public right after the Robbie's report, the city manager report, and at that point allow the public to speak on agenda and non-agenda items, and then remove the end granting audience to the public since you had a chance to talk about anything in the beginning. Is
All right,
that
so,
kind of spelled out how we wanted it?
yep. So we have a motion by Mr. Ingram. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Madam Clerk, that's unanimous.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the consent agenda, we have our old business, new City Hall Senior Center parking lot, Prime Belt Construction LLC. Bobby Marr is requesting approval. Discuss or consent?
Discuss.
Discuss.
Under new business, discussion for Public Works Department employee hourly pay.
Discuss. That's a discussion.
Discussion for Senate Bill 395 opioid antagonist state law compliance.
Discuss.
City personnel fiscal year 2026 one-time holiday pay.
Discuss.
Wetlands permit partial assignment and assumption between Radiant St. Mary's LLC and City U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Discuss.
Public Works increase of personnel for designated second ditch crew of 4.
Discuss.
St. Mary's Police Department cameras, fleet, and body contract from Axon.
Consent.
Consent.
Municipal agreement for online payments to assist with permits and licenses, cloud permitting, from August.
Discuss.
Consent.
That discuss?
Consent.
Discuss.
Mr. King wants to discuss.
Yep, she does.
St. Mary's Museum contract for new City Hall warehouse license and management agreement between St. Mary's Submarine Museum and the City of St. Mary's.
Approve. Consent.
Consent.
Consent? Health benefits subscription coverage. Consent.
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 Consent. Reverse subdivision final plat request for tax parcels S3608-006, S3608-005A, S3608-014, and S3608-005.
Consent.
Consent.
Special use permit for repair, service, and outdoor sale of golf carts on tax parcel 122011A.
Consent.
Major subdivision final plat request for Hayden Point subdivision Phase 3, tax parcel 133017.
Consent.
Consent.
Second quarter town hall and master planning meetings schedule.
Discuss, right?
So,
Consent.
Everyone's
Consent.
consenting
Sure.
the item.
excuse me,
Oh, if we're just consenting the date, that's fine.
just concerned about the date,
Yep,
yeah.
that's
Yeah, if you're okay with the date, sir, you don't have to change it. I just bring it before you in case you need to change it.
Consent.
Sweet Luncheonette LLC new alcohol license.
Discuss.
Discuss.
Resolution Hayden Point Phase 1 to accept property right-of-way warranty deed from SLA Communities.
Consent.
Consent.
Resolution Hayden Point Phase 2 to accept property right-of-way warranty deed, SLA Communities.
Consent.
Mayor Lockhart?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I just wanted to, regarding item I with the health benefits subscription coverage, just a reminder, there was 2 different choices to select, and you all select to put it for consent, and I just wanted to bring you all to your attention. There's several different choices. You would have to select which one you would like, unless you all want to leave it for consent. I'm not sure HR would know which one you all might want.
Discuss.
Well, obviously,
Discuss.
move that to the discussion.
I forgot about that. That should tell me which one.
Okay, so for the consent agenda, we have item F, H, J, K, L, M, O, and P. So what we will do now, based on our change to our agenda, is we will have our city manager's report. All right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, citizens. Mr. Moreno, pleasure to see you, sir. Orange Hall, Mr. David Amos is finalizing the construction plans for the ground floor of Orange Hall. The Orange Hall Committee is working to finalize the vision for the grounds and structure usage. At your next council meeting, they'll be making their annual report, and we'll be discussing some of those visions and some of what they would like to propose to the council. Regarding the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, Public Works is setting meetings with regulatory personnel to start the permitting process. They have gotten the wetlands flagged, and they're trying to acquire a survey proposal for the route of that trail. Regarding Public Works staffing level, as you may be aware, there's 44 positions there with 4 part-times. Currently, there are 3 full-time employee vacancies, and that will be as of Wednesday. Okay? Our grant department has been working with IT on a grant. They've also been working with the fire department on a fireworks grant. That's not for fireworks. That is a benefit of fireworks being sold in Camden County. The money goes to the Georgia Firefighter Standards Training Council, and fire departments can apply for grants up to, I think it's $25,000, but that's what that is. Working on the TAG grant reimbursement submission, trying to get more details on EPA sewer grant. Congressional earmark applications due March the 14th. Lowe's Hometown grant submitted February the 18th. The lead line application is due 3/31. There's various other applications in progress, and she's also been attending Infrastructure Hub Boot Camp, which is an academic process of learning how to deal with those. In our finance department, documents have been distributed to city staff for the 26th budget year. A budget workshop for staff and council has been scheduled for April the 30th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If necessary, a second workshop will be held on May 1st at 9 a.m. until we're done. So it's still the same 2 days, and we try to wrap it up in 1 day, but if we have to go the second day, that day's already marked. So please, council, please mark that on your calendars for April 30th and May 1st. The 25 budget document is completed and is available on the city's website. There will be the last splashed open house on February 11th at the Woodbine Opera Building from 5 to 7:30 p.m. The public is invited to come learn and ask questions regarding the splashed sales tax. Our police department. They currently have 30 certified officers. 3 certified officers are in the final stage of hiring. This will leave the department with only 1 open position. During the month of February, the police department answered 2,954 calls of service, conducting 995 security checks. The police department conducted 387 traffic stops, resulting in 379 citations being issued. The police department effected 56 arrests. There were 11 arrests for driving under the influence and 22 narcotic-related arrests. During the month of February, the police department conducted 32 traffic stops in the Mission Trace area. 27 citations were issued, along with 5 warnings. 12 of those citations were for speeding. The average speed was 32 miles per hour. There were 127 school zone citations issued. Our Main Street Department, occupation tax certificate renewal season is in full swing. Final notices were mailed 1st of January. The occupational tax certificates issued in the month of January. Partnering with tourism for the St. Mary's Mardi Gras, we had a fun day on March the 2nd, which was yesterday afternoon, for our family gras. And if I can intercede here, we have representation from our Main Street. Do we have tourism here as well? If our Main Street tourism and Public Works employees will stand up, and of course, Police Department and Fire Department, if y'all will stand up, please. These folks did a fantastic job, guys. They really did. And Ms. Cheryl with our DDA. Thank you so much. But that just means on March the 4th, which is Fat Tuesday, Illuminated Parade and concert at the Waterfront Park was going to be just as fantastic as it was yesterday. So we're really excited and looking forward to that. The beginning phase of branding in Midtown RSVP with Carl Vinson Institute of Government is underway. Completed annual assessment of national and state Main Street accreditations. Our Midtown Block Priority Planning is in progress, with more information to come on that. Working with DASM and DDA representatives on formulating a vacant building inventory. Working with DASM to finalize the final steps of the big funding, which is a grant that DASM has been working on. Taste of Camden date, please mark this down. 4/27/25 on the grounds of Orange Hall. In our tourism department, she's everywhere, to be honest with you. Big thing in our tourism thing, though, we do have voting coming up on March the 8th, beginning March the 8th. Early voting the 10th through the 14th, and final voting day on Tuesday, March 18th. And you can read the rest of it. Development party, our development, community development. The department is working diligently with Planning Commission and our local development community to rewrite the subdivision ordinance and plan development district section of our zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission will hold a special called public hearing on the amended ordinance Tuesday, March 11th. We welcome all comments and feedback. The department is very close in transitioning all land use applications to cloud permit. This will include all Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission applications, as well as signed mobile vendors and site development plan permits. The Affordable Housing Committee, working under our Georgia Initiative of Community Housing Efforts, will be hearing development proposals for local tax credit developments seeking the GIC letter of support. These proposals will be heard March the 12th. Our Assistant Community Development Director, Mr. Tage McMahon, is leading the effort to amend our vegetation ordinance in collaboration with the Tree Board. Our Senior Planner, Ms. Dana Remy, will be attending the Certified Floodplain Managers Training this week in pursuit of her Floodplain Manager certification. And our Code and Compliance staff are in Savannah this week attending the Georgia Association of Code Enforcement Officers at their annual conference. The department is also beginning to assemble and research the ordinances and other strategies for contemplating the Midtown revitalization effort underway with Carl Vinson Institute. At our aquatic park, the team is excited about the upcoming season, and we're accepting applications for lifeguards and guest service workers. Interviews are falling very quickly. Matter of fact, they've actually done some today. Commerce Park, we're working on the signage in the entrance, and it will be coming in front of the council on our next meeting. Mr. Meyer and I have been working with FEMA and GEMA ever since the Hurricane Helene. We've been working with those representatives for reimbursement. We've had bi-weekly meetings. Everything has been submitted according to the guidelines, and we've been answering questions, hoping to wrap this up very soon. On March 12th and 13th from 9 till 3, the new building will be open. The new City Hall location, 2603 CC Osborne, will be open to allow citizens the opportunity to come in and pick 3 items that were left from the recent sale. We still have some chairs, miscellaneous items, cubicles, lockers. All items after this will be disposed of in an effort to prepare for construction. Mr. Mayor, Council, that concludes my report for this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr.
I have a
Gordon.
question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
When will we have our first 2025 update on the Exit 1 project?
We'll get that scheduled.
Okay.
It's currently not scheduled. We're working through some issues, but we'll get that scheduled. Certainly will.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay. So we will now have our granting audience to the public, and we're gonna wait and see what the public, if the public has anything to say about anything that we've consented on that might make us change our mind. We're gonna give them the opportunity to tell us that before we approve by consent. So we're trying to give people a chance to say something about decisions before we make them. So if you come up to if you have something, like I say, agenda or non-agenda items, this will be the only granting audience to the public. I would ask, just in the interest of time, that we already had numerous folks speak about the Sweet Luncheonette during the public hearing. I appreciate the passion and people wanting to speak in different, but if you have kind of the same opinion, maybe we could just have a show of hands of everybody that agrees that way instead of having to have everybody come up. But if you want to come up, this is your time. So thank you.
Tom Canning, 410 Point Peter Place. I want to repeat the kudos about yesterday's Mardi Gras. I was there for several reasons. Had a great turnout. I was almost wishing I had kids to bring down there until I bought my wife a candy cotton at $8 and was glad I didn't have more kids. I wanted to give everybody an update on the voter turnout as of today. A grand total of 564. Barely a 1.5% turnout so far. I know we got 2.5 weeks to go, but 6 years ago we had less than 7%. We need to show interest and understanding of this past. Also, one other side item, on Monday, with the help of Second Harvest, we fed 397 families on Monday. I will tell you that our mobile food pantries are happening less frequently for a whole list of reasons, but it was a substantial number of people. Since it's already been brought up, I wanted to underscore what was being probed a few minutes ago, and that was not only our come on, brain, get back to work. On the enterprise funds, not only the aquatic center, thank you, and about the marina. I just want to read a bullet that, by the way, and I'm sure more information will be coming out, but those of you that get on the internet, there's a new access to the financial reports and whatever, a whole new app out there. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but it looks like it's going to offer a lot. So anyway, the reading on that document is enterprise funds are established to account for services provided to the public on a user charge basis and is reported similar to a business. There are 4 enterprise funds: water, sewer, solid waste, Aquatic Center and the St. Mary's Marina. And the two I just want to highlight that's already started to be discussed is on this budget, which was approved by the council for fiscal year 2025, the revenue expected for the Aquatic Center was $528,600. But the budget requirement at that time, and this is before you approved the $350 maintenance contract, was $444,340 that you took out of general fund just to take care of the projected expenses to run it. So with our ticket sales, to punctuate the obvious, we're almost subsidizing half the cost of a ticket for for people that aren't even taxpayers in our city. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more discussion. On the marina, I just wanted to highlight again that the revenue projected for this coming year is $91,200, and in order to make it all work, you augmented that with $110,176 of general fund. So those are decisions that you've made for the reasons you made them, but I think, money's getting tight, and subsidizing these things that should be standing on their own is, I think, getting more people's attention. On your agenda, the new city hall, I was a little surprised by the reason for the almost $200,000 for the new parking lot. I wasn't really thrilled with the idea, and I was going to say something about it, but I've talked to other people, and even though I don't agree with all the reasons that you've decided to extend the parking lot in the back, I'll just leave that to the side. But I will ask you to please jot down that we, for the past 40 years, have been giving up state money, not taking state money that's available. And the reason that happened 40 years ago is the city of St. Mary's, your longtime predecessors, decided it was too much paperwork to go to the state to justify getting that money for their senior center, which was an infant back then. So the county said, well, Roger Wilco, we'll take that, and they moved the money. So all the money is going to Woodbine. I don't begrudge what they're doing up there, but this highlights to me that your success with the senior center is outpacing theirs, and we need some of that state money. So I respectfully suggest you reach out to the county and start that ball rolling, right?
That's your time, Mr. Cannon.
Oh, well, okay, I guess I'll get you on the back end.
Having fun.
All right. I don't know if this is fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me while I elevate here. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. I'm Jay Marino at 501 Victoria Circle here in St. Mary's. I wanted to address briefly item E under new business, the Public Works increase of personnel for designated second ditch crew of 4. In your packet, it's much more detailed than that, and it goes into the additional equipment that would be required to stand up that second crew. And I noticed that it calls for 1 grade-all, which is the machine that digs the ditches out, and it also calls for 1 dump truck. Okay, back 24 or so years ago when I was still bipedal, I worked for Stan Smith's underground contractors, and we did all the underground utility work and retention ponds and road paving out at Cumberland Harbor. So I know a little something about the efficient digging and moving of dirt. And I've noticed that, you've got, if I'm reading it correctly, you're talking about matching up 1 dump truck with 1 grade-all. That is a classic case of penny wise and pound foolish, because what happens, let's say that the operator of the grade-all takes 30 minutes to fill that truck, because, if you've ever observed those guys doing that, you got to kind of creep along and dig one out, so it's not a very quick thing. So let's say in an 8-hour day, it takes 30 minutes to fill the truck. Then if you got one truck, his round trip to the dump site takes 30 minutes. So you really only got 4 hours of actual digging of the ditch. And one of the things that if you're an underground contractor or an earth-moving contractor, is it's a cardinal sin to ever have a track hoe operator swing around with a bucket full of dirt only to find there's no truck to dump it in. We used to back up 3 of them practically touching each other, so that literally when the full truck drove off, he swung back around and boom, there was another truck. So you ought to have at least 2 trucks. And I don't know if the intention was to just buy a new truck and assign 1 per grade all, but you really need to have at least 2, or you're going to be working very, very inefficiently, digging half the linear feet of ditch in a day that you could with 2 trucks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley Sampson, 114 Boston. I'm up here for something completely different, not to complain, but I want to take a minute to thank Chief Galloway for taking care of a situation. And I don't know if y'all hear of this or not, but he really did a wonderful job in taking care of a situation for me. And he was a person of his word, a man of his word. He got back to it to me the exact time he said he would. He took care of it, and both of us was happy. And I really thank him for dealing with the officers that was involved in this situation. And he did such a great job. One of them came back to my house and apologized, so he did a good job. And another thing I want to say is about the Quartet Center. Friday, I was in Jacksonville, Florida at a funeral, unfortunately, a family member. And someone found out that I was from St. Mary's that was there and came up to me and said, you know, I wanted to tell you, I really love that little St. Mary's, Georgia. And I said, really? He said, every year, the Aquatic Center have saved me, my wife, and our kids and our grandkids. He said, that place is really neat and nice. And he said, I've enjoyed it. He said, we take the train, when we have the train going. And I just want to let you know, people do take notice of St. Mary's, and the little things that you think not important, they do. They take them for heart, even though they may not be actually from here. But they do, and I just wanted to say that about the Aquatic Center and Chief Galloway. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And while we're waiting on the next person to come up, I'm just going to jump out here and say that we did approve the award of the bid to the vendor at our previous meeting, but we have not finalized the contract yet. We are working on that to see if the cost can come down to the money that was spent to more closely match our budgeted monies from this past year. So we will be taking up that contract at a future council meeting. So just so you know.
Larry White, 102 Sylvia's Court. First thing I want to say is I'm not sure if it's the city's charter or the city rules about how to conduct city council meetings. All right, but you've been changing it every time, last meeting and this meeting, just by a motion of one member, and then approving that, the change if you're going to have public notice, public hearings before or after. If you're going to continue, you're going to do whatever you want to do, but you need to change your rules to do that, and not just have a motion every meeting to change your procedure, okay? The second thing is, during the city manager's meeting presentation, Mr. Riley's no longer on the city council, so he doesn't have to actually ask the question if there's any citations for littering in the city other than for speeding or drugs. And I know he can't answer me, but I just want to say that the condition last time I drove down St. Mary's Road and on Coleraine Road, the amount of litter along both those has been atrocious. Right, so I think it's time. I know there's people that pick it up every month, but I think something should be done about that. The other thing is, you talked about speeding tickets in the cool zones. I'll bring it up again like a broken record. On Mickler Drive, you need to set up something there on Mickler Drive because they speed all the time during school, after school, and any time of the day. And as far as the parking lot for the senior center, it's a good idea to have that parking lot. I don't know if Tom's aware of this, but if there's not a lot of parking back there for us older generation, so we have to ways to walk to get in there. So if they have a parking lot back there, the older people don't have to walk so far to get into the senior center. Thank you.
Good evening. Willie Chain, 101 Hallows Drive. Came here this evening. I know there was a lot of passionate speaking already. I don't think that it would be fair to all of my supporters if I didn't come up and make one mention, if I could, about Sweet Luncheonette, the name that echoes across the streets here in St. Mary's. So I do want to say good evening, Mayor, Council. I am here just in the capacity for Sweet Luncheonette, support my wife's Chef Stephanie. We are working to elevate our wine culture. We're working to promote a good, responsible way to involve ourselves in a high-end type of pastime. And tonight, what we have before us is a request for approval to sell wine, sealed bottles, so that way people can consume those off-premise. Something that is already permitted in other areas all across the state. Many of the Georgia cities from the bottom to the top have all types of operations where they are able to taste the wine, take the wine home, and that's just simply what we want to provide for the people here at St. Mary's. It's good for St. Mary's, right? We have our Exit 1 development. We've got our Cumberland Inlet, the strategic plan. It aligns with a lot of what we're trying to permit tonight with a vote to allow us to do this. We're hoping that this will take us into a step where we have a destination, right? People want to come down to St. Mary's, downtown St. Mary's, and they want to enjoy the culture that we have as far as coming in, seeing the sights, and being able to do something like a wine tasting and be able to take home some of those so delicious wines that they tried. I think the most important thing is to be clear about how this isn't. This is not a bid to try and turn Sweet Luncheonette into a liquor store or a bar. We're talking about controlled, responsible sales where guests can purchase a bottle of wine just as they would at a winery. That's the type of operations that we want to, move forward with. So essentially coming in, talking with the people that had the opportunity to grow and cultivate the wine, build the wine, and then have them take it home. So I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to let you all hear a voice a stakeholder in the actual operation of the Sweet Luncheonette, and to parrot some of the community that has come out to express their support. There's a lot of community members that are interested in trying to step forward into a strong culture that elevates based on what we want to see in the people that we bring into St. Mary's. So we're looking to be able to bring those high, happy individuals into our cities, and I think that's a good way to start. So I appreciate the time, and I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say.
Thank you.
Robert Moore, 509 Westgate Circle. Start with agenda items. I guess, Councilman Nascimento, I guess you're a couple of topics. I hope it's in the idea of retention of employees. Besides that, I'm not sure if I can support whatever that is. I didn't get a chance to read it. what is it? The Public Works Second Ditch Crew. I see Pat Betchick of the media. He featured some of my comments in 2019 as I stood here. Sadly, I could not bring the shovel that I had in 2019 because the handle rotted away. It's been that long. So I do hope that if we have a designated ditch crew, that there's some guardrails that, hey, we have a ditch crew, they need to do this 80% of the work week, or something of that. Because I fear that 6 months from now, a year from now, the latitude's given down to Public Works leadership or city leadership, and they go off to other tasking, and they never circle back around. As Mr. Marino cited with the dump trucks, I read over the plan, and as one that studied Lean Six Sigma efficiencies for work, I saw the same thing, at least 2 or 3 dump trucks, because I don't know where your intended dump site would be from the spoil, but that is going to be downtime and the cost of diesel as that grade all sits and waits. So really the big thing is me being, sadly, a pessimist about the second ditch crew is if you stand them up, have them do just that. Because the 2019 and the millage rate increase, I see that we got police radios. I didn't get much of a ditch crew out of my increased property tax back then. And then non-agenda item, last month I sent an email and I mentioned about the burn barrel and the burning. Still haven't got an answer. I read back through it. I don't see where the difference between someone sitting around with Adirondack chairs and a fireplace, some kind of appliance with a fire that keeps it off the ground and contained, is any difference than my burn barrel. So if we have an aesthetic issue, then I would say, well, I see how arbitrary the historic district is when it comes to enforcing aesthetic ordinances. So if I can get an answer on what exactly is allowed, I'm not advocating to burn my plastic wrappers or anything like that, just the yard debris and non-pressure treated wood. I don't see how that's any different than someone sitting around maybe drinking wine that's sold by the bottle, or some kind of long neck, because all those are within 50 feet of a structure, and that is also prohibited by the ordinance, but I don't see the police or the fire department responding to little outdoor fireplaces. So if I can get an answer or ruling on the play, if it's sorry, you shouldn't be using some ugly rusted burn barrel. I mean, maybe I can drill holes that look like a smiley face and everybody's happy about it, or something. Or I'll just buy a used burn pit or a fireplace, and I'll just do that. And I'll just say, hey, I'm staying warm. I know it's 96 degrees at 7 o'clock at night, but I'm staying warm. But if I can get a ruling on the play, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to put a smiley face in Rob's barrel. Anybody? No. That was good.
It'll be on Facebook.
Christine Adamo, 901 Ann Street. I'm following up the city manager's report where he very casually mentioned tag 1 invoices are being looked for, I think. I'm speaking as a volunteer member of the city's tree board and happens to be the chair. And I'm very upset. The Trees Across Georgia 1 was a $43,000 grant that the city was awarded. The monies were spent down quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 last year. Invoices were never aggregated and sent to the state for reimbursement. So the city's been floating that grant. You have heard we have a financial problem in the city. We have cash flow issues. We're taking general funds and sliding them over to other line items that were budgeted. This is a good example. Okay, it's $43,000. Big deal. Efficiency. It's a problem. It's an operating issue. It's a financial problem when we're not efficient and we're getting reimbursed on time. The marina, we spent $4,500 to put in a gate that was in the wrong place. I don't know how much it cost to move it, but it got moved at our expense, and now it's broken. It's been broken for close to 2 months. It's not used. I don't know, was it $5,000? You know, $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Inefficient, money out the tubes. Where's that money going? We can't, when we go into this budget cycle, guys, ask our operations manager and the assistant who's responsible for the portfolio to give you a P&L for every one of their assets, because we're not managing them well. We're losing money, and we're sliding money out of general funds to supplement other items that we don't have the money to afford. Back on being a tree boarder, the city was awarded $350,000 grant by the Georgia Forestry Commission. A stop work order was issued by the state to the city manager's office that we never heard about, the tree board never heard about. Efficiency? $350,000 isn't going to get reimbursed because the money from the federal government to the state is on hold due to the current legislation. But we have been moving forward with projects and could potentially have gone out and started to spend money, because this is a grant like the others where the city fronts it and then puts the invoices in. We could have spent money in advance of knowing that there was a stop work order. We never got that information. But I had the state call me and said, "Are you aware there's a stop order?" No, I said, "We never heard from the city manager's office." Communication. As a volunteer taxpayer board member, I think we would deserve a little better accommodation. A lot more cooperation from the people that are getting paid to do a job, which needs to be efficient and fiscally responsible, because I'm pretty pissed off. And I challenge all of you to look carefully at this budget cycle and do it differently, because we're losing money left and right, and the operations of this city is not tight.
Thank you. Anyone? Okay.
Hello, Karen White. Good Lord, I forgot where I lived. 609 Margaret Street. Anyway, you probably all know I'm here for one thing and one thing only, even though there's so many things to discuss. But once again, I'm going to ask about the tennis courts. I'm amazed that you can drop $400,000 on the aquatic center to fix pumps, and yet we still lose $42,000 a year on that center. And I thought it was also interesting that the woman talked about how wonderful the people from Jacksonville feel about our aquatic center. I'd be curious to know how many children actually from St. Mary's use the aquatic center. Anyway, that's beside the point. What I am wondering about is why we can't pull together, I've been working on this for 16 months now, why we cannot agree to pull together, which started at $125,000 16 months ago, and now is $157,000 to redo the 2 tennis courts. That's all I want to know, why we can't do that. We can do $420 for some pool pumps, but we can't do tennis courts. And I will further say that the tennis courts would actually make more sense, because tennis is a sport that follows you to the end of your life, not just as a child. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, My name's Tiffany Henson. I'm at 1013 McDowell Street. I had no idea there was a huge thing about this aquatic center, so I'm putting my 2 cents in. My husband and I love going with our nieces and nephews when they come to spend the summer with us. But I didn't know we had tennis courts, and I really wish that those would be fixed up and also maybe put pickleball things on that too. That would be really fantastic. It would be really nice to have bike lanes in the community, just be able to get from other parts of St. Mary's into here more safely for others riding bikes. There are tons of bike riders that I constantly see up and down the roads. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you please repeat your name and address for the city clerk?
Yes. It's Tiffany Henson, Henson. Oh, address.
Yes.
1013 McDowell Street.
Anyone else? Okay, all right. No other? So I will now ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. By Mr. Rassy and Mr. Ingham. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and I will now ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Rassy and Mr. Nascimento. All those in, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So our first item is old business, the new City Hall senior parking lot. Mr. Marr.
Good evening.
Evening, sir.
Shortly after the senior center opened at the new City Hall, request came in to look at the addition of a parking lot in the back of the property, behind the driveway. So we did, we contracted with the engineer, Jonathan McDill, to design a parking lot for the seniors to use so they could have a shorter walk to the senior center facility instead of parking out front, walking all the way through the building to get there. So we got it all designed, laid out, went out to bids, and we had one bid come in, and it was $275,000. So we went back in, looked, 'cause, by the way, our anticipated budget was only $150. So this was a significantly higher bid than what we anticipated. So look back into the specs, into the design to see what the big discrepancy was, but we couldn't really find that kind of discrepancy in the design. So we repackaged everything up, went back out to bid again, and we ended up getting 5 bids the second time, with the low bid down to $199,778 and 75 cents from Prime Built Construction out of Atlanta area. So the original contractor that had bid, that Curb and Gutter Professionals, actually lowered their bid 29,000 in that range on the second round, but they ended up being middle of the pack on the bid process. So at this point, I think we've gotten about as low as we could on that bid. So now it's council's discretion to move forward or not with the parking lot project. So we're recommending that if you do want to install this parking lot, to go with a low bid of $199,778 and 75 cents to Prime Built Construction.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to discuss.
Well, we have to get a motion first, and then we
Okay.
can.
So moved.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Rassy. Is there a second?
Second.
second by Mr. Connor. Okay, discussion?
Yes. You mentioned that $150,000 was originally in the approved budget for the 24-25, is that correct?
That was the estimated budget for the project, yes, ma'am.
So, but what I'm asking is, was it in the approved budget for
It was not. That's why
24-25?
it was looking to come out of the fund.
Right, I see that it's going to come out of fund equity. I just wanted to clarify that.
Correct.
I certainly don't disagree that the seniors now are having to walk, some of them, some distance. And I think having a parking lot renovation back there would be a good idea. But I am not in favor of continuing to take money out of our fund equity. We've got a budget process coming up for the 25-26 budget, and I would say that the appropriate thing for us to do would be to take a look at getting it in that budget, if it's something we want to do. That's my opinion.
I agree. I'm for it. I'm just not for it now. And I don't think this is an emergency, though necessary and needed. There's some things we're going to talk about tonight that I would consider urgent and necessary, or more of an emergency. And I'm pretty sure Ms. Karen is going to jump all over you if we spend $200,000 on the parking lot and not for those tennis courts that have been, underway for the last 16 months. So, and I don't blame her. Now, so do I think it's necessary? Yes, I just don't believe that $200,000 is something we want to spend at this time.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something very briefly. We're talking about something the city owns and something the city, the PSA, when we talk about the aquatic center area, okay, we have the stuff on Margaret Street. That belongs to us. The PSA has the stuff over there by the aquatic center, not the city of St. Mary's. Unless I'm mistaken on that. Am I correct on that, Robbie? Mm-hmm. Okay. So when we talk about allocating funds, we got to make sure that we understand that the PSA owns a certain amount of that and we own a certain amount of that. Okay. We own the stuff on Margaret Street, but the PSA, with the exception of the aquatic center, owns everything out there on the aquatic center. Is that correct? If I'm not mistaken, that is correct. So y'all are asking us to fix the tennis courts, which in reality, I'm for that 100%, but we don't own them. And that is true.
Well, then you and PSA need to get together, because PSA said we do own them.
Well,
Last
that's,
meeting I was at with them, they said we own those courts. So when you guys can get your ducks in a row.
we have our ducks in a row.
Then, then we can go forward.
We have our ducks in a row, and yes.
Let's return to this motion, okay?
Let me, Thank you.
Let me ask a question. Do we have evidence or we have proof that we own the aquatics center?
Okay.
I'm just asking that. I understand what you're talking about, but I'm coming up with that's going to help me in making my decision. The last document that I got was in 1994, signed by Jerry Brandon. He signed that piece of property over to the PSA, or the rec department, or whatever you want to call it. I have not seen any memorandum of understanding or anything else that's saying that the city owned the aquatics parks.
Well, you are correct that in January 1, 1994, there was an agreement dated 4/29/2019 that expires 4/29/2025 that created a comprehensive leisure services program. It was established by creating and by combining pre-existing municipal programs and facilities. That has been funded annually by the various cities and unincorporated counties. So that's correct. That was back in 1994. That agreement is being negotiated right now. So, you know, there are a lot of moving parts. I agree with Mr. Connor on that, but I think, you know, and I'll update a little bit more on the expenditure for the Aquatic Center in my closing remarks. But I think what we need to do now is get back to our original item.
And the reason why I asked that is because, you know, I agree that the seniors need a parking area, but, you know, I don't know how much money we're going to be able to get out of our general fund before we run out. I mean, there's a lot of things. Every time we have a problem, we're going to get it out of general funds, and I don't see where we're going to be able to make it to the end of the term.
I agree with you, Mr. Jones. I think there are some things that are going to come up between now and the end of June that we don't even know about yet that are, and I'm not saying that the parking lot is unimportant. I think it's very much needed, and I am very interested in taking care of our seniors, but I think that to be fiscally responsible, we don't need to keep taking money, unbudgeted funds out of our general fund. I think we need to include it in this
I agree with that.
next budget.
And Ms. White, also with the tennis courts, I agree that that's important. But
Oh, it's very important, but just like I said, we don't own the tennis courts. We own the Aquatic Center, and we own Margaret Street baseball fields.
no, you don't.
That's what I've been told.
Let's return to this motion, as Ms. King said. So we have a motion and a second, and do we need to have a further discussion? So.
I'd like to make a motion.
It's already been motioned, so.
I have a motion for approval, sir.
Mr. Ingham, you want to talk, or?
Well, she could amend the motion, correct, if she wanted to try, if we're in agreement for an amendment, or?
I don't know that we're amending anything. I think we're either voting to turn it down or to accept
Down
it.
and make another motion if we want to.
Yeah, I mean, so let's vote on this current motion, please. Mr. Jones? Are you going to call this, I'm sorry, for the vote, or do I call it? Or just all those in favor?
Oh, no, so I was just making sure you know I had a motion by Councilmember Rassi, a second by Mr. Connor for approval.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have Mr. Rassi and Mr. Connor?
Yes.
All those opposed?
All right.
Aye, I'm opposed.
Okay?
All right.
All right, so we have the other four, Mr. Jones, Mr. Ingham, Ms. Nascimento, and Ms. King. So the motion fails.
Yes, sir.
Boy, I guess we wouldn't need to make a motion to bring it up at our budget session, though, that we're about to have it.
I don't
I
think
think we're
that's
gonna do that
necessary.
anyways. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marr. Okay. So our new business, first item for discussion is the Public Works Department employee hourly pay, Mr. Nascimento.
When I was campaigning, I was on the road holding my signs, and my two biggest things was, number one, fix flooding first, and the second was the Midtown revitalization. I had others, but those were the biggest. And I remember a woman driving up and saying, "Are you actually going to do what you said you were going to do?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm going to try." And so I think this is probably a long time overdue, but it's the first thing that I would like to tackle, and that is giving Mr. Marr a tool. See, I believe raising the hourly wage, and I'll address Mr. Rob Moore as well. Yes, for employee retention, because I'm in a unique position. My trade is a hairdresser. I do about 20-something people a day, And I do a lot of those workers. And so I've asked them, I've asked some of the men in this building, what are some things that you need? What are some tools we can help you as city council to get this problem done? Because obviously everybody agrees that the ditches need to be taken care of. I mean, we've heard so much from Crooked River. We've taken tours out there. We know what the problem is. It's not a mystery. And they said pay. You know, leadership is another one. You know, they've made mention of Kingsland's supervisors being on the field with them 4 hours a day. That's a huge thing. And then training. Training's another thing. Just because we have, you know, people out there, are they being trained to do and to operate the equipment to the best efficiency possible? I think our citizens have even brought that up today with Mr. Marino. So my big thing is, to me, this would be an emergency. The county pays $17 an hour for operator ones and their ditch crew. I believe 17 is the number. I've asked many landscape companies, what would your guys need to ever leave you? And 17 is that number. And this would make us competitive. This is, to me, urgent. This is an emergency. The two emergency items on this list, to me, are Agenda A and Agenda E, and they go hand in hand together. We need a secondary ditch crew, and we need to raise the hourly pay $2 an hour. Now, I think that all the other departments deserve and need a raise. That is super necessary. The only reason I'm doing this now is because I think this is an emergency. So I think next year we need to look at the budget for raises across the board. And of course, I'll get to the other agenda item with the holiday pay. But right now, the emergency is to hourly employees $2 an hour. And I believe that's what's going to start with the ditches. And if I would have a request, I'm not trying to tell Mr. Bobby Marr how to do his job, but I would beg you to start in Crooked River. That needs it first. I would beg you to just start the process there. Those people have waited a long time, and I think they deserve it.
All right, so would you like to put that into a motion then?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to raise just the hourly employees $2 an hour for Public Works.
And that's all Public Works employees?
All Public Works employees, correct. Just the hourly, not the salary.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll do a second so we can have some discussion.
Okay. We have a second by Mr. Ingram. Okay, discussion?
Okay, I agree 100%. You know, we've all seen Mr. Moore come in with his shovel, and it was comical then, but it's not funny anymore. You know, we've been kicking this can down the street for too long. And every time I ask about it, well, we're working on it. We're working on it. We can't get people. We have in 2021, we did a stormwater management study. And all we have to do is enact that, and that will probably take care of all of the woes that we have, because like Mr. Marino says, even if we adopt this and get the people that they were talking about hiring, it's not going to work, because you're going to need more than one dump truck. You're going to need more. It's going to take several things to get it done. So what we need to do, we just need to go ahead and do a complete overhaul. We've studied this thing to death. Let's go with our stormwater management plan and hire the people that we need and get it done. Now, we can do this for an emergency to get a ditch crew out there. I don't have a problem with that. But after this budget year, we need to work on getting full-time people out there to do the job, because like I said, when I first came on board 6 years ago, trash was the biggest problem. We got rid of the person that we had. We paid a little bit more, but I have never had any trash problems. The second thing was the ditch, and we're still working on the ditches. And it's not that hard a task. All we got to do is decide that we want to get it done.
Well, I think there are two things that you're talking about. There are two different agenda items.
Yeah, I
One
looked
is
at E and
Yes, so let's just take the across-the-board raise. I'm not opposed to having our city management come up with a plan for retention, but I am opposed to across-the-board raises.
I agree.
I think that we need to identify through our management, direct line management of Public Works, who the people are that deserve an increase. And I understand that we're in a unique position here in that we are competing with the U.S. Navy base for some of the people that we need to do our Public Works jobs. So that makes it challenging. I do think that we are extremely exhausted and tired as a community in trying to address this issue unsuccessfully, and I would like to see that we task management with coming up with a plan, a comprehensive plan. I also know that we have some supervisory issues that relate to this that have yet to be completely addressed. So I think before we do an across-the-board raise, we need to take care of our other management issues and identify the good workers.
So the reason I said across the board, because I'm for a meritocracy, I think you should be rewarded based on your performance, not just everybody gets the same. But as I understand it, it would shorten the gaps between the supervisors, and if you just raise those ditch crews up, or you raise the operator one up, now there's not much of a difference between their superiors, and there has to be some sort of evenness across the board, and this just makes it more enticing. Again, I said it's a tool that Public Works can use to bring people in. I, for one, don't want to get out in 100-degree weather in those ditches cleaning up trash and doing those ditches for $15 an hour. They could have came to my pizza place and flipped pizza around in air conditioning for the same price. So I just think that we owe it to our workers over there at Public Works. They work hard. Obviously, it's a task that most of us would not want to have to get out there, and we need to make it appealing for them. But that was my reasoning for across the board. I do agree with you, Miss Lynn, about it being a meritocracy, but let's just start with this, and then you reward based on performance.
So we've got a couple of things on the agenda item that are, obviously like the last one we just discussed, that are tapping into our fund equity. This would be a mid-year, approval that would also tap into that. The last meeting we had when we were discussing House Bill 581, I know there was a statement made that taxes are going to go up. Well, maybe because some of this stuff was in the pipeline, that this stuff does affect what we do with our digest. When we have to approve our millage rate. I don't know that everybody up here, and I'm going to ask council, has everyone taken the time to actually put some real thought on this versus just having it on the agenda? Has everybody read this?
Yes.
Put thought into it?
Yeah.
Everybody for themselves? I mean,
Yeah.
so everybody feels they're ready to make a decision on this tonight? Because I don't think, my personal feeling is.
I don't have a problem with giving them a raise. They deserve a raise.
I agree.
The people in the, they said that's gonna put a frown on the people in the office, but if they wanna get out there in this heat and work for $17 an hour, they can do it. I think you get paid by what you do.
Because a couple of people's made some different opinions, and I don't really know where everybody's at. We haven't had a chance to discuss. So I guess what I was going to just suggest is that we, before our next meeting, have a work session. So everybody really does have a chance to, before we get up here, have a work session before the meeting, and let, like Ms. Keene, put some more emphasis on what she's trying to articulate as far as merit-based, raises versus across the board. Let Jeremy, and I want to work with both of you in the interim coming up and hear both your sides and opinions, just to make sure that we do this the right way.
I think that's a great thing, but you know something, regardless of which way we go on this, I most definitely think we need to do it during budget time.
Yes.
Well, the problem is
That's just my 2 cents.
hurricane season's coming. And
We
if-
need people now.
Right, we need people now.
Which is agreed, but I think that 2 weeks would still be a reasonable time frame to get
Sure.
it done.
And
We determine
in
that's
the-
the course of action.
So, Mr. Mark, can I ask a question as to how many vacancies we currently have in the department?
Could you come up to the mic, please?
I may be able to save you some time if you remember back in the manager's report. He's currently got, as of Wednesday, you'll have 2 operator 2s and 1 operator, no, I'm sorry, 2 operator 1s and 1 operator 2.
Correct. 2 operator 1s and 1 operator 2, which is CDL drivers.
So how many people are you short?
2 operator 1s, 1 CDL driver, so operator 2.
You need an additional crew.
And we have the equipment if we were to hire them today.
We do.
Okay. I think that's the big question.
Well,
So we have met, Mr. Marr, Mr. Horton, Ms. Keene, and Mr. Ingram and I had and Alec was there as well, kind of a discussion about things that we're going to be asking Public Works to do moving forward, you know, the way our city looks and those kinds of things, and trying to, as we are moving into budget season, trying to figure out exactly, you know, what it's going to take to get what we want for our city, for our city to look the way we want it to look, and to drain the way it needs to drain, and, you know, to have clean water coming out of our faucets and dirty water going away when we flush it. And with all of those responsibilities, you know, we've asked Mr. Marr and his department to, you know, to put that work in, to let us know kind of where we need and what roles are needed and what positions. And as we said, we do have another budget item to specifically hire another crew to really be dedicated to working on the ditches. And certainly agree with Mr. Marino about being able to keep the truck running continuously is very important to efficiency, you know, for that. And appreciate his comments there. But you know, my concern, I say, is that we address this with a scalpel instead of a shotgun. That, you know, if we have specific positions that we're having problems getting people into those jobs and keeping people into those jobs, that there are targeted ways that we can do that with incentives for retention. You know, you work a certain amount of time and you get an increase in salary automatically or something by that longevity, or other, you know, creative ways that we might be able to address this more focused, rather than create additional problems with the rest of our staff across the city. And that is my biggest concern. Like I say, we're coming into budget time. We hope to be able to budget for, you know, increases across the board for staff, for cost of living. Things are costing more. And I really think it's more of a discussion that we need to have during that time. And that's kind of my 2 cents on it, I guess.
Well, if you're and tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Marr. If you're not getting the employees because it's not enough money, and you're not keeping the employees because they're going for other money, and you're short-staffed right now, what would be the point of bringing up Agenda E to add a ditch crew when you can't fill the ones you have?
Amen.
So we have to start with the raise before you can get the people. Before, it's not even worth even mentioning E if we're not going to give raises, because we have to get them to begin with, and we have to have pay that's competitive to keep them. So, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, and we have been starting to get more interest and more people coming in the last while since the council raises salaries, that $2 last time. So we have been able to slowly build up those vacancies that we've had. So we're down to the 2 operator 1s and the 1 CDL operator 2 position where we're at.
Because when we did our retreat, we were down 4. So that means since our retreat in January, we've only filled 1 position, correct?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Actually, there was 4 full-time and there was 3 part-timers.
That's right. Okay.
At that.
That was vacant.
that was vacant. And we're up to 3 full-time positions that are vacant.
Yeah. And also at the retreat, we had some that were in the works that didn't make it through the process.
So Bobby, how difficult is it going to be able to get those people that are certified to be able to run those machines for a $2 raise of what they're getting paid now?
Of course, the higher the salary, the easier it is to get people. That's,
But what I'm saying is these people are certified. I mean, they're probably out there making more money than what we can offer them. Am I right or wrong if they're somewhere else?
Oh, yeah, entry-level CDL drivers, easily $25 an hour.
$25 an hour.
They can drive over the road and.
So we're talking
Make a lot
about
more
giving a
business.
$2 raise, what they're making right now. Is that going to even be attractive to get those certified people in? I mean, we're talking about hiring 4 to 5 certified people on that new crew that's coming in. Am I correct? Or at least 2 or 3?
You're seeing one, and we're getting confabulated here. So you'll have, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Have one operator 2, which is our CDL driver, correct?
Correct.
And then you'll have 3 operator 1s.
No, sir, it'd be a operator 3,
Okay,
which is, he's the crew leader guy on the machine. Then you have a CDL driver on the dump truck.
So.
Then you have the
And
2
what we're
operator
seeing,
ones.
to my point, what we're seeing with our CDL folks, that we have been able to hire, these are the gentlemen that have done the over-the-road. They've been on the road and they're tired, they want to be at home. And they want to be able to go, they enjoy driving the truck, but they don't like the over-the-road thing. So they're able to come in, they've got the benefits here, they're getting a decent wage, and that's what we're attracting now. So we're marketing almost a different clientele. Yes, if you want an over-the-road, yes, you can make a good living at it. But those guys are getting burned out, so they're coming home and want to be at home, and that's who we've been attracting here of late.
Well, clearly, we don't have all the information that we as a council need to make a good decision on this. So I would, and I agree with Jeremy that we need to do something about this. We don't need to keep deferring the plan. But I also agree with Mr. Ingram. Let's task management with coming up with a very fine and detailed plan about what we need for this issue, and then have a work session scheduled so that we're not trying to solve this problem here at our meeting. We don't have enough information right now. So I'd like to make a motion to that effect.
Well, you already have a motion.
We already have a motion
Okay.
on the table right now.
Does the
and so-
public have this that you gave us? Okay, just so you know, he gave us, yes, it's over the next 3.5 month cost. To give the $2 an hour increase, it's $58,579.13, just so the public knows what it would cost over the next 3.5 months. And that's why, I mean, you think I hate like aquatic centers and fun stuff, and I'm like the enemy of fun. But when I say that there's things coming down the pipeline, and we don't want to have to raise the millage rate because we're not taking care of the importance of. That's why. It's not that I don't think we need a parking lot for the seniors or that we need to fix pumps at the aquatic center. It's that I want to be very careful, and that's why we're going to look at that contract again to make sure we're spending the money wisely and that the money is going to the most important places first. So it's more of a priority thing, not that we don't want to do those other things.
I'll just have one response to that. That's a very achievable number to give a $2 an hour pay raise for the next 3 or 4 months. But what I want to make sure everybody understands is, if that pushes us where we're like a blanket for the whole city, which I do agree we may need that, but I want everybody to understand the decision they're making. My eyes aren't as good anymore, and this very small print, a lot smaller than this. Like, what's the total cost for the year for a $2 pay raise for the whole city?
You'll have to give me a minute to.
The whole city, you're saying?
Yeah. Because that's the.
Oh, I got it.
Because if we approve this, that's what we segue into our budget for next year is what we're almost committing to. So it's like that's what's proposed.
Smaller than yours, and I don't have my glasses.
Thank you, Robbie.
I'll look, but
So can we,
It's in there, Greg, somewhere.
Talk about this right here.
Whatever the total number was for the city. It was like
On two, it was 750.
4% have it. That's times 4.
That's total merit, COLA.
well,
It's right here.
Because you gotta give him.
725,000.
So, yeah. So 745,000 is the number that's there. Pardon?
That's right. Oh, so, okay, so we have a motion, so unless, Mr. Nasmita wants to withdraw that motion, then we need to vote on it. So, all those in favor of the motion as it stands to give a $2 raise to hourly employees in Public Works, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? So I think we have.
Go ahead, Chad.
But I would like to have a work session before next meeting for at least 30 minutes.
I agree.
I'd like
Agree with
to
that.
make a motion.
With Mr. Nesmith.
Make a motion
Yes.
to be able to do.
I'd like to make a motion that we task management with coming up with a detailed plan for us to look at.
Ms. Deborah?
Yes, ma'am, I was just trying, so you can just task, you don't need a
You don't
motion,
need a
you can
motion.
just
Okay.
task. Mhm.
And that we, as soon as that plan is done, we have a work session, but I'd like to put a time limit on it.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be done before our next meeting. We have kicked this issue down the road for a long time.
The work session should be like right before, like we had the little
Yes.
5:45 thing today. Sorry, I don't know why I pointed out there, but 5 or 5:30 next before the next meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Let's move to our,
That's the timeline. Yeah.
on our agenda.
My goodness.
Be on it.
Discussion-
Well, and we'll need to have the information a day or two before our work session. Yeah.
We can finish this up.
Okay.
Let's go ahead, please. So, item B, the discussion, Senate Bill 395, opioid antagonist state law compliance. This, again, Mr. Nasmith.
The only, we're just going to do the express version because I could already see if we take this much time on every single agenda, we'll all be here till midnight. July 1st of last year was when we were out of compliance. So that means we're 8 months out of compliance, and now I know that we're having emails for training. Let's just not be that city. Could we just be the city that, if it's required to do something for Narcan and to have this training, that we just get it done so that we're not out of compliance for 8 months. That's the only thing I just want to add to that. And if we could just do a better job as a city of staying on top of that for training.
I agree. And thank you for bringing this issue
Just an
to the
accountability
forefront.
thing. That's why we're bringing it
Yes.
up, just accountability.
Well, I thought it was already done, because I know I talked with the chief several months ago and asked him, if all of his people were certified, and he told me that his people were taken care of, both chiefs.
Right, this pushes down to all city staff are required, I guess, to have this training and to have the Narcan available, and staff was able to negotiate with the Department of Public Health and get the $1,200 or $1,500 worth of Narcan that we now have at no cost from DPH, and it is now available inside the AED equipment where that is posted, and ongoing training is now, staff are supposed to be watching an online training, and then we'll be taking record of who's done the training for those purposes. So, anybody else, anything else about that?
I would like to have in our next manager's report just some information for us to know how many doses of Narcan are in each AED, if that's been done in the all government buildings where the AEDs are located, just so that as an information for us and for the public.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Anything else on B? Okay. Item C, city personnel, fiscal year 2026, one-time holiday pay. Mr. Nasmith.
So I think a lot of times, just even before I was a council member, I would hear a lot of thank yous, and I'd hear a lot of, you're doing such a good job, you're doing a lot of thank you, and I think money spends better than thank yous. I think, that's something I think they haven't had holiday pay since 2022, I believe. And then before that, it was during the pandemic of $750. And then before that, it was 2016 for $500. A one-time holiday bonus is really what it is. And I would just like to open up that discussion with the council to reinstitute that and to put that back into the budget to really show that our staff here, that we care about them and give them a little help at the end of the year when they need it most.
I'll start off and just say I do agree 100%. And that's something I've brought up actually multiple times that I'd like to see discussed in our budget workshop. So I don't think we should have a vote at this meeting on that, but we will discuss it and hash it out what that number is, because I do agree that it's important that that'll be something for our budget workshop.
A quote-unquote bonus is not legal from a government standpoint. Can't just give people bonuses for work not performed specifically. Some of the previous bonuses I think that were received were hazard pay from ARPA for COVID and some of that kind of stuff. And so I understand where you're going there, but we have to be apparently very careful about how, that is presented and to make sure that, we're above board and legal when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish there of recognizing, achievement and loyalty and those kinds of things. But anything to add to that, Mister?
That's correct. I mean, you do have to be somewhat mindful of the gratuities.
Is your mic on?
I'm sorry?
Is your mic?
I think it is.
Yeah. I was saying you do have to be mindful of the gratuities clause of the Georgia Constitution. It prohibits you just giving something of value to someone without getting something in return for it. But we can certainly work within that framework to figure out a way to do this if that's the direction you want to go. But we just need to talk about it further and be careful and mindful of how we do it.
Yep. All right. So with that said, we can just have a good plan and some ideas from staff by the time we have our budget hearing, correct?
Yeah. Are we good there? All right, next item for discussion is the wetlands permit partial assignment and assumption between Radiant, St. Mary's LLC and City, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So Mr. Blackerby, we have a request to approval to transfer the city the rights and obligation under the wetlands permit and Radiant, St. Mary's regarding property city acquired from Radiant. And you want to speak to it, or?
I'll be very brief. The city made a land swap with Radiant back in, I think, September of last year. They acquired some of our property and we acquired some of theirs near the in the Exit 1 project area. Mr. Mark probably speak more to what we need to do on that property, but we did acquire it. Before that, Radiant had already taken steps to get a wetlands permit so that they could do wetlands disturbing activities on the property. And this is essentially just to transfer to us the rights and responsibilities under that permit to the extent that we now own part of the property.
Right. So part of, as I understand, is entrance roads off of Highway 40 or St. Mary's Road and into the property are the responsibility of the city. And this is some of the land that we're talking about. And some of the property being wetlands, there is mitigation and monies were budgeted in the original TAD to cover that. Now, we don't have a final budget yet because we don't have final engineering on all of those things and don't know exactly what land will be disturbed. So whether or not what was actually budgeted is accurate, we don't know that yet. But did you want to add something?
Well, I was just going to say that I got from Mr. Horton just prior to the meeting that the budget or estimate was $427,500. And he did assure me that that number was incorporated into the number that we used to determine how much of a bond we needed to receive. So, as Mr. Mayor says, it may come out to a somewhat different number, but we have at least been assured that it's included in our bond monies.
Any other questions about that before we move on?
No. Do we have to do a motion to approve this?
Yes, we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Nascimento was a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next item is the Public Works increase of personnel for designated second ditch crew of 4. And Mr. Horton on the hook for this one.
Last year, good gracious. In last year's budget, one of the items that was placed into the parking lot, and the way that has worked in the past is once it hit a parking lot, we've monitored our revenue intake to where we knew if we had more money coming in certain areas that we were able to address, then we certainly did, and we would take one of the items off the parking lot and we'd put it in there. There's no argument that a second ditch crew is needed. I think that's by anybody and everybody. But anyway, so we've been monitoring that, and so what you see before you is to operate a ditch crew for the next 3.5 months is $104,888.67. Just FYI, we did receive a check from our Georgia Power, our franchise fee for the year, and it did come in $130,000 more than what we anticipated. So that was the big ticket we were waiting on.
So is this not, this is not in the budget? Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry.
it's not specifically in the budget, no.
No.
It's in the parking lot.
Correct.
That's John's term, but,
Yeah, when we do our budget hearing, which you'll see coming up, we'll have our items that make the budget and things that are really close, but we didn't quite squeeze in as the parking lot, and this was one of those items.
Correct.
I think it's probably been there more than 1 year now.
okay. So before we go any further, can I have a motion to, on this item?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Mr. Rafferty and Mr. Ingram second. All right, discussion now, I'm sorry.
Yes. I have a question generally about this. So since it wasn't budgeted, I guess that's why you're telling us 3.5 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Would be 104,008. Where is the schedule of work that if we're going to approve this money, what ditches are going to be addressed? I'd like to see, what's going to be done so that we can know what to expect for the $104,000 over the next 3.5 months. Curious. What comes first, second, third? What are our
Some of the
priorities?
instruction from tonight was to hit the Crooked River.
Yeah, I would just say, as long as we have assurance that the training starts and they start training those ditches out there in Crooked River, that makes it a lot better.
Well,
Definitely.
is it going to take the whole 3.5 months to do Crooked River, or are we going to get to some other ditches for the 3.5
There'll
months?
be other ditches gotten as well.
Pardon
There will
me?
be other ditches gotten as well. And this is assuming that we're able to put people on by the 15th of March. So just keep that in mind as well.
So is it, so in the proposed funds, so that includes the vehicle leases, like we're leasing on?
No, sir, that is strictly personnel cost, the vehicle and any additional stuff. They have the equipment to get started and get them through, but all the other stuff will be addressed at budget time.
Okay, so what's the estimated equipment that we'd have to purchase for the budget coming up? Sorry.
Well, that'll be in the budget year.
Okay. We
Yeah.
can get there, but just committing to it.
Do we have,
We have 2 great autos. We also have a mini group. Oh, it's not a great auto, it's a mini backhoe, get in tight spots. So there's equipment there that's available. Some of it, depending on how we work with the some of the equipment, we may need to get new shovels or something, but.
How many dump trucks do we have to assign to
492.
this?
No, I'm sorry. We currently have 4.
We have 2 big dump trucks, small one and then a flatbed.
Okay.
So 4 means of moving dirt.
So we had 2 big dump trucks, 1 smaller one, and a flatbed was the answer.
Thank you.
Now, is this crew, and I know a lot of times they'll get pulled off of other crews to do other work. Is this a dedicated?
This is a dedicated ditch crew,
Okay,
sir.
that's what I want to make sure.
Good. Good.
Now, granted, there may be an emergency that may require it, but it would be minimal.
So with the dump trucks we have for this remaining of the budget, if we approve this today, those 4 dump trucks are adequate for the 2 ditch crews that we would have if we have?
To get started, yes, sir, they are. Now, that doesn't mean that we may come to you and ask for another dump truck at budget time, but we've got 4 means of moving dirt as it stands right now.
Good. Good. Mr. Connor?
I've got a question. Yes, thank you very much, first of all. Are we talking about city ditches, or we're talking?
City ditches.
City ditches only?
Yes, sir, that's the
Okay,
only thing we can
so if
work
we're
on.
talking about something in front of someone's house, then it's not necessarily a city ditch.
No, if it's
on the right
a
of way.
ditch in a yard, we can clean that ditch. It's the culverts that we can't.
Okay. It's
Repair.
the culverts that we can't touch.
Right.
Okay.
So.
I just wanted to clarify that, yeah.
Can we make the motion contingent upon getting a schedule of what's to be accomplished in the next 3.5 months?
You want to make
Plan.
a motion to amend the, I would amend it. I would amend it. You want to do that?
Elevator.
Yeah.
What was the amended motion? I didn't hear.
We hadn't made it yet. We're getting there.
Working
Go
on
ahead.
it.
Whoever's going to make it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to amend the motion so that we approve this contingent upon receiving a schedule of work to be completed over the next 3.5 months by our next council meeting.
Okay. You realize March 17th is our next council meeting, and the date was for the 15th. I'm just making sure you're aware.
Yeah.
I
Not trying to mislead.
realize that. I'll be here.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you follow through with that?
All right. Do we have a
You with
second?
that?
Yeah.
Obi, do we have a second to the amendment?
I'll second that, but I still want to have discussion, right?
Okay.
And
So
We're gonna have a discussion, yeah.
So keep me straight down there, Ms. Clerk.
Yes, sir, I got
Do we need to vote on this now, or we can have discussion on the
You
amendment?
can have discussion on the amendment.
Okay.
I guess all I was going to state is 2 weeks enough time to get that, only because to be able to give a schedule of work, you have to, actually hire the employees too. I mean, they'd have to be able to start the hiring now. I think maybe our first meeting of April might be more realistic. to
That
get
would be wise.
But I'm not
Well,
step on your
I
toes
mean,
on that.
in theory, they're coming to us and asking for the money to do this. It
So they
seems
got a
to me that you would have a plan. And I understand that they have to be able to hire the people, but I'd like to know what the goal is for
Okay,
the
well,
next
May-
3.5 months.
May I interject there?
Sure.
And please, no disrespect whatsoever, Ms. King. Council is the ones that came to us with this, and I'll be more than happy to, once we sit down and we get our crews hired, we'll bring you the schedule and report back on what we're cleaning and when we're cleaning it.
Yeah, all I was saying at the
Yeah,
point
we
is,
can change the date, though.
yeah,
Well,
just the first
yeah.
thing, if it gives them a month, so like if he tells us how much work will
23rd
be
of
done in the
May.
next 3.5 months, well, we didn't hire enough people to make that happen. Well,
I
think
mean,
Ladies-
I
ladies-
suggest maybe we can just put forward a,
Ladies and
not
gentlemen,
necessarily a schedule of what's going to get done, but a schedule of where our highest priority areas that we're going to start. Because obviously what we get done and accomplished depends on when we get the crew hired. If the crew doesn't get hired till May, then, we're obviously not going to get that same scope of work done. But if we could get a priority list, would that be sufficient of,
Yes.
of where?
I'll be
we
happy to provide
start?
you with a priority list, and we'll be able to keep track of it and report back. But with the contingency, I can't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we talk about this, that includes the culverts, right?
No, sir, we don't clean culverts.
Just ditch.
We just clean the ditches.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, the way it works, the culverts under people's personal driveways belong to those properties. That property is their responsibility. to clean that culvert. So,
Like the two culverts I got in my house.
yep. So, all right, so we have amended the amendment. Maybe I can't do it, so somebody else.
So I was
Would you like
gonna-
to restate your amended motion, Ms.?
Well, it sounded like Councilman Keen's amended motion is not what you want to go with.
Right.
So you have an original motion, which it sounds like you want to go with, the amendment, which you don't want to go with. You have to vote on each of them, and you can certainly come back and amend the
All right,
original
so let's-
motion. So the amendment is what Councilman Keen made, and you would vote on that first.
Okay, so does everybody know what we're voting on? The
Absolutely.
amended motion, where she was asking for a specific plan, of what would get accomplished during the next 3.5 months.
I thought she said 2 weeks. I thought she said the next meeting, which is March 17th.
Right, but she
Can
wanted
we
to know
just
what would
change
be,
that date?
what would be completed within the next 3.5 months.
She just wants to change it to the
Can we
first meeting
just
of
change
April.
the date from
Just
next
change the
council
date.
meeting
Get
to
them-
give them a little more time?
Let's vote on that motion first, and then we can restate it.
Okay, we'll just vote it down. Gotcha.
So, all those in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Sir, I didn't actually see who is for
Slow
the
down.
motion.
So, there was no one opposed.
That was favor, it's all opposed.
Right, right.
No one favored and all.
No one
opposed.
favored it.
Thank
All
you, sir.
opposed the amendment as stated.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that amendment fails. Do we want to restate the amendment now with the?
Yes.
Oh, that's on me?
It's on you now.
I'd like to have the, Public Works Department come up with a plan, that we can have within a reasonable period of time, like 3 months at the most.
Actually, I think do you mind if I do it?
Go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the second ditch crew with the contingency that staff provides us with a schedule of work by our first meeting in April.
That makes sense.
Second.
Hey. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Ingram, a second by Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of this?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so do we now need to return to the first motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first motion was to
Approval.
approval of the ditch crew, of the actual purchase.
By the date, right? By a date.
There was no date set on the original.
That was just approval of the recommendation
kinda
to hire a
confused.
dedicated ditch
Okay,
crew.
got it.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Horton.
And sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we're making progress. Now we're down to G, municipal pay agreement for online payments to assist with permits and licenses, cloud permitting. Ms. Cleveland.
The planning department has implemented cloud permit to facilitate their operations. We would like to offer online payments for building permits as well as business license. And to do that, we have to have a conduit, which would be Municipay. This would be no cost to the city. The cost would be to the customer at $2.50 for an electronic check or flat fee, or for credit cards, it would be 2.75%. All this is just an agreement binding the city with Municipay in order to have this service to our customers.
So the actual software as service application is at no cost?
Well, there's no software. It would just be, the software's already, the software is Cloud Permit, which they are familiar with Cloud Permit and use them. Matter of fact, Cloud Permit gave us a list to choose from, and they were at the top of the list.
Okay, so this is a processor.
It's a
recommended
processor.
Marcia, Ms. Clucken, I have a question. Can we use this for other entities in the city, such as the marina or anything else where you have kind of, off hours payment?
No, ma'am.
Someone coming in
This
late.
will only be used for cloud permit. We have, you need to,
We use it for building permits. We also use it for our planning department as well. And so any of the construction side is where this would be used, and business license.
yes, business
And
license.
business
too.
license. So those are the services that would be tied up in this service.
Okay. Okay. All right, so before we go any further, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, by Mr. Rassi, Mr. Ingram. All right, any other discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam, we only have 5 there. Mr. Connor's out of the room. So.
Yes, sir.
All right, next item is item I, health benefit subscription coverage. And as mentioned, we have a couple options there, but Ms. Larson's going to take us through it.
Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. As you remember back in November, some of you weren't here, but some of you were, we asked to change carriers from Aetna to Anthem. We did that in January. We knew there were going to be some disruptions with the medications, and we held meetings with employees to kind of let them know about that. What we did not realize is that Aetna and Anthem handle coverage for certain medications like GLP-1s. And if you're not familiar with those are medications like Mounjaro and Ozempic, typically used for type 2 diabetes, but they've also been used to aid in weight loss management. Those medications are called Wegovy and Zepbound. Our plan, nor the previous plan, pays for medications for weight loss. Aetna's contract provided access to GLP-1 medications for prediabetes with 2 or more comorbidities, and that means high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that sort of thing. Anthem's contract is stricter than Aetna, and we did not realize that. So it only provides GLP medications for a type 2 diabetes with comorbidities, but not for prediabetes. So we've identified 4 members who are considered pre-diabetic who qualify for these medications under Aetna, but they do not qualify under Anthem right now. So I have given you 3 options to consider. The first is just to maintain the current coverage that Anthem has, and that would be no exception, and those 4 individuals would no longer be able to get those GLP medications. Second option would be to approve a one-time special exception for the remainder of 2025. That would give those 4 effective members only, because they were the only ones that we're aware of, access to these medications for the remainder of this year, for 2025. That would increase the plan cost by $51,220 for 2025. But keep in mind, when we went from Anthem went over to Anthem, it included a $60,000 transition credit. So that would have been a savings, if you will, for what we budgeted. So there would still be a savings for 2025 of $8,780, even if we approve this exception. The third would be develop a comprehensive wellness program. We currently already partner with Main Point Health and Wellness, is the county's employee clinic, and we would leverage our existing partnership with them to provide enhanced preventative care by implementing a structured wellness plan that would include weight management, nutrition counseling, and screenings for pre-diabetic employees and members. We also currently already provide a personal trainer 2 days a week to provide exercise classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So to balance out employee support and fiscal responsibility, I have recommended that we do a combination of option 2 and 3, and that would be to approve a one-time special exception for 2025 for those 4 members only, with the understanding that coverage is only guaranteed through the end of December 2025. We'll work with our broker and Main Point Health and Wellness to expand our wellness initiatives by providing pre-diabetes support, including nutrition counseling, weight management programs, and ongoing screenings. This approach will give those 4 individuals the support they need now, while also promoting long-term health strategies that would help reduce the need for costly medications in the future.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Ms. King, Mr. Nascimento, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Larkin. And our next item is Sweet Luncheonette LLC for new alcohol license. And do you have anything to add to that, Ms. Walker-Reed?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay.
I had no recommendation on there.
All right. So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Rassi and Mr. Nascimento. All right, any discussion?
Yes. So there was a discussion that we could approve this, but it might not fall under state guidelines. Is that true or not?
No, that's not accurate. The state regulations and statutes governing alcohol licenses would prohibit any establishment that serves distilled spirits, meaning liquor, from selling distilled spirits for consumption off premises. But as I understand it, this is strictly beer and or wine, not distilled spirits. So that prohibition doesn't apply here. There's nothing in state law that says that you can't have a license to serve beer and wine on premises and sell it for off-premises consumption as well. It's just the distilled spirits is where the prohibition comes into play.
Okay, it was just, somebody mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, and I
today.
think, Councilman Ingram, what you're referring to is us notifying the applicant that, with the understanding that they would need to understand, they would need to contact the state to see if the state would approve it. That's the notification we gave them.
I got you.
Yeah, we sent the notification to them to let them know they would need to contact the state and see.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
I took that over a conversation in order to make sure that if we approved it, it was within state guidelines.
Yeah.
I just misheard our conversation a little bit.
And let me just say too, that any licensee that we grant a license to remains responsible for ensuring that they are complying with state requirements as well. The granting of our license does not excuse them from ensuring that they are aware of what the state requirements are, that they follow all the state requirements as well.
So, for clarity's sakes, this is a second type of license that would be issued or
it's like an upgrade
taken by the business owner, so they would have their license to pour in-house, and then they would have a secondary alcohol license with different fees or additional fees in order to be able to sell to carry.
That's correct. They would have, if approved, two separate types of licenses for one establishment. The current ordinance does allow for this. It does specify that you can have more than one type of license. If that's something that is a concern, we can certainly revisit whether we want to make an amendment to the ordinance in the future to make that no longer allowed. There are ways we could approach that, but under our current ordinance, you can have two different types of alcohol licenses.
So is that still a different license than, let's say, a liquor store would have? Like, I guess just selling beer and wine is different than beer, wine, and liquor. Is that correct?
We can't sell any food. We can't sell anything but the wine.
We have, in our current ordinance, we have various types of licenses. I can't remember exactly how many, but there are classes of licenses for beer and wine, and then those are subdivided into a license for beer and wine for consumption on the premises versus off the premises. There is, within the on the premises category, there's a further subcategory for with food or without food. And then with distilled spirits, it's the same thing. You could have a license for beer, wine, distilled spirits, and then those are subdivided into consumption on the premises versus off the premises, with food or without food if you're on the premises. And so you've got all these different categories and subcategories.
Gotcha.
So I've got one question. If we pass this, I mean, we're talking about being able to sell wine within the store with food, okay? But the situation he's in, okay, he can't do that. He doesn't. I mean, he can't sell food or anything, correct? If you chose to, You know what I'm saying?
Even if we choose to, we can't sell food.
Okay, so there is a huge difference in between you and her
Plus,
as
they
far
get
as that's
fiberglass
concerned.
pricing,
Right.
which on a lot of stuff is less than half my cost.
If you're going to continue asking questions, Mr. Bennett, I would ask you to come to the microphone, please, just so the online public can hear.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, and I really support small businesses. This means that every restaurant that's got a pouring license can also get this wine tasting or wine license?
Yes.
Is that right? And how many, Madam, Ms. Deborah Walker?
We have a total of over 40-plus licenses, which includes our few liquor stores that we have. Well, we had 2 just added tonight, 2 new liquor stores added. But
So we're
last
saying
meeting, but
roughly 35 businesses can come in and get the same license that they got. In other words, we're opening the door for everybody to.
They would actually have a better version of it.
If he can present, I'd like to be able to present as well at the, as, you know, as answer, as an, if we're.
Sure.
Share the mic.
I think that only seems, is that
Yeah, just a second, let Mr. Bennett answer.
Yeah,
and then we'll let you come.
they'll have on-premise pricing, which is by the glass pricing. But they can resell those bottles. So like, a couple that come to mind is Duckhorn, which is my favorite Merlot from Napa. I think the, by the glass price is $23. My cost is in the low 40s. And it kind of destroys the integrity of our off-premise license because we're at a disadvantage of somebody with an on-premise license. You know, the whole reason that they adapted the 2215 was to keep people from drinking and driving.
I think MAD was the one that come out with this.
It is?
Oh,
that's right.
Drunk drivers.
And it was during COVID, and it was, you know, it was to, but I mean, I'm gonna have 44 new competitors that get better pricing than I can. So it's basically gonna destroy the integrity of your off-premise license. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's
I
fine.
absolutely respect JP's for certain. They have provided an amazing service to this community long
I
before
love
I
that.
was here, and I know that
Too.
you and the chains are, have a great relationship as well. But I would say that while I absolutely feel for the market pressures, the alcohol space is difficult. It's difficult for everyone from top to bottom. We have incredible federal regulation. It's easier to get marijuana than alcohol in 2025, and that is just the reality of it. The truth is that I think that opening up an opportunity where we could have more choice for our consumers is a good thing for our consumers. And so while I respect the difficulty of being in business, being in business is hard. I mean, it is for all of us all the time in every industry. And I think that any time that we're allowing more competition, that is excellent for our consumers. And also, not everyone who owns a restaurant will be interested in also having the logistics nightmare of a second alcohol license and more regulation. So while it may be available to people, there are plenty of things that are available to people that people don't step up and do the work. Digging a ditch is available to everyone, and we can't retain them because it's hard work. And as a person who also deals with the incredible logistics of international wine purchasing, I understand all of the problems. I understand the
Well, you have
costs.
to go through a
I'm dealing with tariffs currently, so I understand that costs change. Competition comes in. Sometimes we have to evolve
So you know
with
in
new
Georgia's a
regulations
franchise state, and you have to go through a supplier. We all go
We
through
do,
the same
yes.
suppliers.
Mhm.
You
Some
can't
of our
sell
sales
anything
come.
that I can't sell in the state of Georgia.
But the difference is what we
All
would
right.
choose to sell and what you would
get
choose
better
to sell.
prices.
Okay, let's,
But that's not, the city isn't in control of
Get away
the
from us.
prices, yes.
Does council have any other specific questions?
Yes, I mean, JP is great, John's, I've been to your tastings at Osprey, amazing. I just had to close my business yesterday. I understand the stress of small business. And when we got in this, I think Ms. Stein's wording was like, let's work to yes. So here you have a small business with Sweet Luncheonette that has an opportunity to make that cash flow positive. I had to close my business because of cash flow. And hell is going to freeze over before I vote against a small business that's going to prohibit them from making it.
We're a small business too.
Well, I understand, but I think that's what capitalism is, right? Like we're trying to compete,
But
right?
we don't get the same cost. They get on premise
But
pricing.
when they said, when we had this thing where it's like, well, it's going to make it competitive, I watched every single person there shake their head. They're for competition. They just
Well,
want
it's
the
no
ability to
competition
get
if
ahead.
They pay a third of what I pay for a bottle of wine.
Very important point.
So,
I would like to make a very important point. And
Well,
I do have
can-
the lawyer here.
can we have,
I'd like to bring up some
y'all sit
further-
down, please?
Yeah. Oh, how you doing? Not so
John,
bad.
John, will you have a seat, please?
Just one important point, and if I'm not confused, but I do believe I'm correct on this. I do have my own restrictions. So we did mention that I cannot sell liquor. So, that's where we run into an issue. Essentially, if we want to make this about, checks and balances, there is that check. So I can't sell liquor. And then there's also the food, right? My food and my alcohol sales, right? So I cannot exceed my food sales. Where it might seem like it's a cash grab, it's not. You see, I actually have to sell food at the level 50% or greater than the amount of alcohol I sell. So it can't overtake it.
Is that the case with this off-premise carry as well?
I think that's the requirement of the license they already have. They already have the license for the on-premises consumption, and so they're required under the ordinance to maintain that ratio of food sales.
Because they're listed as a restaurant. If you're
So-
listed as a restaurant, you can't sell more alcohol than food, then you wouldn't be a restaurant.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
you'd be a
bar. So
bar.
if you're listed as a restaurant, you have to have more than 50% food, otherwise you're not a restaurant.
And so I would face a very difficult challenge if I were to exceed that. So perhaps even if there was some sort of loophole for myself, I would have to thread that needle with a large group of people over and over again.
So I do understand Mr. Bennett's concerns that if we approve this, that he feels that you would be able to sell the same bottle for a significantly lower cost than he's able to.
We're not interested in the same bottles. That's not.
Yeah, it's not apples and oranges. It's two different
That's our
things.
point. That's
But if we open it up for this business, then we open it up for all businesses that may sell
And
bottles.
that's my point. If we grant him a license, the other 35 or 40 restaurants will also have to give them the same opportunity.
That would be at the discretion of the distributor. So the distributor is who sets the price for each person that purchases through them.
So this is going to be a legal question I have real quick is, or does like a bottle of wine, I buy bourbon, and I like to buy a nice bottle, and the bottle has an MSRP that this manufacturer suggests a retail price versus, markup prices. So not counting markup prices, does bottles of wine that are meant for, say, a store to purchase have a standard MSRP, or is it kind of price it accordingly to your markup?
No,
There are also
okay, that makes it.
quantity discounts that my assumption would be that JP's is able to take advantage of that Sweet Luncheonette has never been able to and is unlikely to be able to based on the nature and the size of those.
They don't come close to
Yeah.
on-premise prices.
I guess one of my questions is once you're selling off-premise, would you still be able to purchase bottles that at a glass pour price, which is,
it may depend solely on the distributor. So the distributor sets the cost for what they want to sell a bottle of wine to me. I have to give them my license. So when they say to me, what is it that your intention for this alcohol sale is going to be, I have to set that with them. And then when I get my agreement with them to sell that wine, that's when they give me the price that they want me to sell at. So whether or not, is that not correct?
That's
No,
not
it is-
correct.
It is correct. And
When
also.
you buy the wine, it's
I'm just going to say the public can't hear you guys if you're not using a mic. So you would have to use the mic if you're going to talk.
So I do not believe, as far as any dealings that I've had with any distributor, in any time that they've mentioned that there's a requirement.
okay, everybody, please.
I do not believe that there is any opportunity that the distributor has given me to say that we're going to take or give you a price different than, you know, what they've offered me to begin with. So they give me a price. It's shown on a website. The website is called Pravi. It's essentially has a frontline price, and then it has and whatever any other price that they want to give you. That's set by the distributor, and that's particularly not anything that we here can change. If a distributor wants to give you a price for X, I can't know what they sell to JP's, and JP's can't know what they sell to me. That's not really why we're here, though. We're actually here for the fact that I'm trying to, achieve a permit to sell beer and wine and not liquor. And it's also basically hinges upon my responsibility to maintain within the guidelines set by the state, which is our parent guideline factor. So if I can operate within those rules, and if I do not infringe upon whatever has been set forth as far as what we're allowed to do, then that's exactly where I'm trying to operate. And Sweet Luncheonette is not open 24/7. We're open for ticketed events. We have one day a month where we're open to the public on First Friday. We're a very, very small establishment. If we do get any kind of good pricing, I couldn't tell you. I don't know what anybody else gets. But I will tell you that as far as the pricing that we get and its fairness and the amount of output that we can give, it has to, before it throws red flags, which could jeopardize my establishment, it has to fit within that narrative of that 50%. And now whether or not that's true, it really comes down to whether the state wants to audit down and they want to drill down, and if they decide that it's not, then I'm out of business. So that's just really the game that I'm playing at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we understand Sweet Luncheonette is different, but we're having to consider, the entire city. Mr. Bennett, did you have anything you wanted to say in rebuttal or?
I love Sweet Luncheonette. Okay. The Chains are great people. They work really hard. I'm not worried about Sweet Luncheonette. What I'm worried about is the other 43 restaurants that are going to have box pricing and a better price. On-premise pricing for wine is significant. By the glass pricing, it's huge. My favorite Merlot is Duckhorn Merlot. By the glass, you can buy it for like $19.25. And my cost is the low 40s. So it's like, and that's our cost. And it's just not a level playing field. And plus our on-premise or off-premise license cost a lot more than their on-premise license, and it's going to be completely, it's going to lose the integrity of the license if everybody's got one that has any kind of wine license.
Thank you.
So
anyway. Want to add one last thing?
If I could just add, just very quickly, and again, with all respect to JP's, when we approve a new boutique to come into town, we don't ask them what their margin is compared to another boutique's margin. We simply say, is this something that's of value?
It's not margin, it's cost.
Is this, yeah, that's where margin comes from. So we just say, is this something that provides value to the people of our city? And I don't own Sweet Luncheonette. I'm only a partner with them for their wine tasting. I have an independent business, but I can just tell you that it does provide value at every ticketed event, and every single time people ask, where can we buy these bottles? And again, I have purchased my wine at JP, so I understand their position in the community. We offer different bottles. Our entire goal is to find wine that does not exist on current menus and current shelves, because what would be the point? We're a much smaller establishment. We can't serve as many people. Can't argue on bulk pricing, which other places will get. If you order by the case, it's substantially less expensive.
One quick question. What is the possibility of a partnership where those bottles could be made available and there was a capability where they could be made available at a local liquor store?
I can absolutely see.
With a, some sort of.
I hear you and I see the appeal of that. The thing that I would say, and again, I just want to make sure that I'm being deliberate with my words because I do respect you and your establishment, but we offer a different level of service at Sweet Luncheonette. I travel the world to meet with winemakers as a person who owns my own in Germany and am pursuing my Master of Wine certification. So when we offer a wine experience, it's not just, and I'm not saying that you do, but I am saying that my experience is averages $50 or more per ticket. It lasts 2 hours. And we really discuss this hill is south-facing. I mean, we get into that sort of granularity, and there is not an economic feasibility to existing in a strictly by the glass operation. The reason that you don't see other wine bars in this community is because they don't make money by the glass, and that's why whenever you see them around the state, you see them by the glass and with this bottle opportunity. Because unless you're a full restaurant, unless you're also making money on tacos, you're not going to keep your doors open on just wine. Now, Chef Stephanie, if you have not seen her wedding cakes, her doors are open because people travel around the country to purchase her works of art. And so she is amazing. And so that is why this business is able to be open, but it's not open on the backs of the wine. The wine is an additional program that we're offering to the community who has asked for it.
Okay.
That's why.
Can I add one thing and I'll sit down and be quiet?
Me too, sir.
It's setting a precedent for, I'm not worried about Sweet Luncheons. I love the chains, they got a class act. It's the other 43 restaurants. You're setting a precedent.
I believe, and I could be mistaken, but I do believe that Sweet Luncheonette is the only restaurant offering only beer and wine. I do see most of the time, if we're out in this community, that most places also have spirits. And we do not have, I'm saying we, it's not my business, but the chains do not have spirits, simply beer and wine. And we even offer alcohol-free options. If somebody would like to have I just keep buzzing, I don't know why I'm doing that, but if somebody would like to bring friends to Sweet Luncheonette for one of our ticketed wine tastings, if we know in advance that you have a person in your group who does not consume alcohol, we make sure to have alcohol-free options so that you don't feel left out and that you also get to have something interesting in the evening. And we've done that consistently. The same also with vegan restrictions, gluten-free, other dietary restrictions. So it is a personalized, high-touch, high-quality, beautiful evening out. And so, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I just want to respond to something I've heard a few times, which is a concern about opening the door to this. But I want to make clear that the door is open because it's not prohibited by the state laws. And the ordinance has now for some time allowed a license holder to hold more than one type of license. So this is not opening the door. It's a door that's been open for a while, though no one has opened it.
Not in St. Mary's, and it's per community.
No, it has been open for 2 years.
What I would counsel you all to consider is if you do want to avoid further opening the door to this and having more establishments doing this, or if you want to consider whether you want particular restrictions, I don't think the way to do that is to deny this application. It's to, in the future, consider an ordinance revision, because we could certainly amend the ordinance to remove that provision that states that you can hold more than one type of license. We don't have to have that in the ordinance. We can specify that you can only hold one type of license. We can't apply that retroactively to somebody who has already applied for the second license. And I also want to mention that one way, for your consideration, one way some communities have dealt with this issue is to have a separate license category for something like a wine specialty shop or a beer specialty shop, where it's a specific license category for an establishment like this that would specialize in high quality wines. They would have them available for consumption on the premises, but also have them available for off premises consumption. But then if you do that and you have a separate license category for those types of businesses alone, you're able to impose additional restrictions that would only apply to those types of businesses if you wanted to do that. So I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, Mr. Blackerby. And you might have said some things that kind of swayed me a little bit. I don't have a problem with granting a license to them. But what I'm saying is if you give them a license, you open up a keg of worms, because every other restaurant can and will try to take advantage of it. So, if it was just one, I don't have a problem, but I'm concerned about what's coming down the pipe.
So, like it sounds like Mr. Blackerby has given us a potential solution that maybe allows us to move forward, but also put it in
Prove
check
and change later.
for, without say.
A question for Mr. Blackerby. With what you stated, if we say took the course, kind of like your first suggestion there, and say this got approved, I guess if we maybe set a moratorium on future approvals, how long would you need probably to help us draft something to?
I would suggest if you want a moratorium, make it a 60-day moratorium. It would be a moratorium on accepting any new applications for alcohol licenses for that period of 60 days. And that would give us time to reconsider the current version of the ordinance and decide if we want to make any amendments to it. But to be clear, a moratorium would not apply to pending applications.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so, did we start with a motion? Ms. Walter Reed? Do we have a motion?
You do have a motion.
Okay, and that motion was to approve?
Councilmember Rassi to approve and second by Councilmember Nascimento.
Okay. Is there any other discussion that's needed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, any abstentions? So, Mr. Jones, the one nay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, does anybody want to make another motion at this point in time based on what we were just talking about?
I would like to make a motion to have a 60-day moratorium on license approvals for, what's the exact verbiage for this type of license, sir?
It's called a specialty wine shop. It exists in many localities, and I've been asking for it for 2 years.
As far as the moratorium motion, that would be a motion to impose a 60-day moratorium on accepting or approving any new alcohol license applications.
Good.
What he said.
Yep, a 60-day moratorium on approving or accepting alcohol licenses.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nascimento. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So congratulations, you have your wine. Hopefully we'll have a solution that addresses Mr. Bennett as well.
Can we have the bottle?
That's right.
I don't drink.
Okay. That concludes our agenda items there, and that brings us to the calendar, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, March 5th, at 5 o'clock p.m., the Development Authority of St. Mary's meeting in Main Street. On Thursday, March 6th, at 2 o'clock p.m., the Tree Board meeting in the Planning and Building Conference Room. Also on Monday, March 10th at 8 a.m. in the Main Street office, the Downtown Development Authority meeting. On Tuesday, March 11th at 4 o'clock p.m., the Special Call Planning Commission meeting here in Council Chambers, followed by the 5:30 p.m. regular Planning Commission meeting here in Council Chambers. And the Wednesday, March 11th, we have they removed that, I'm sorry. On Thursday, March 13th at 9:30 a.m. in Orange Hall Management Committee meeting in Main Street, followed by the 5 o'clock p.m. St. Mary's Intracoastal Gateway meeting in Main Street. On Friday, March 14th at 9 a.m., we have St. Mary's Municipal Court. And also on Friday, March 14th, which was going to be added today, the Hospital Authority has called for a special call meeting at 10 o'clock a.m. on Friday, March 14th, and that is at the Senior Center, the new City Hall, where the Senior Center is. And then I believe on Monday, March 17th, a time to be determined, council was requesting a 5 o'clock or 5:30 p.m. work session, followed by the 6 o'clock p.m. council meeting.
Okay, and do we not also have is that not a city council meeting on the 6th, or is that just for Gateway?
It's just Gateway.
Okay.
And, Mr. Charlie, do we still have that tour? Is it 8 a.m.? That tour that we're doing next Monday, the 10th?
Monday the 10th.
8?
8. Well, 8:30. 8 o'clock is just more get together.
Okay, it's still in the Main Street building?
So the special call meeting on the 6th, though, is open to the public. So there's a special call meeting on Thursday, the 6th, for the Gateway Committee. I know there'll be a presentation by the Yadavs. I believe that's at 5? Yes. 5 o'clock. And that will be in the Main Street office then. No, that's here in council chambers, I thought I saw.
No, that's in
No?
Main Street.
Is it Main Street? Sure, I thought I saw, but anyway, we'll get clarity on that and get it on the website. So. Okay. Council comments. And as per my modus operandi now, I'm not
Nah,
gonna go
let's
down
go
the line.
home.
So if you have something to say, now, recognize yourself.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Yes. Second.
We're not quite.
We still got executive. We still got
We're not
executive
to that
session.
point yet. We have executive.
We still got
session.
executive session after the comments.
Are there any other council comments at this time? All right, so.
Okay, I want to make one comment to the chief. I guess this is your day for getting kudos. I had a couple of people that tell me some good things about you too, but I just want to say it's great that you're writing some tickets out there, and let's go down and take care of Mr. White's Road, and let's also look at the trash. I want to arrest a few people for litter.
Yeah. I have one comment that addressed to Mr. White about what we're doing, messing with the agenda. The agenda as it is printed out each week is what's written in ordinance. It has to be that way. And, you know, we've been seeking to make some adjustments. Didn't work tonight to shorten the meeting, but you know, the last response we had after the previous meeting was, I wanted to be able to comment on the city manager's meeting. So that's why we moved that up ahead of comment period. And so we'll get our heads together after this meeting to decide if this is what we want, and then we'll have to go to Mr. Blackaby to have our ordinance changed. And once we do that, then it'll be that way moving forward, you know. But that's why the process, trying to answer as many questions for as many people and try to get where we're trying to go. But I appreciate your comment on that. So,
And Mr. Mayor, I think this meeting went very well considering the number of agenda items we had, so.
well, we have one more, and I need a motion.
Actually, I did want to say one thing before we break. I know that, you know, we don't have to do comments, but I do want to say, very proud of city staff. I know it's been discussed, but our Mardi Gras Festival, Sunday was actually, I was surprised at the turnout that we did have. We had multiple food truck vendors actually sell out of all their own food, of their food they had, so it's very successful for them, and that's going to be very good moving forward for this event. So now that we can, you know, bring in and attract a good corporate sponsor that sees that there's going to be people seeing their advertisements, seeing the event they're going to put on, and the food truck vendors that were there, you know, they're going to be a testament for that as we market this thing. Thank you big time to Angela Wigger, who's in the room, for her efforts on the Mardi Gras Festival. Candace Pullen left already. Bobby Marr, Public Works, Chief Galloway, Robbie, Charlie, everybody that participated. It was a good event, and I look forward to tomorrow night. Hopefully you guys all come out and see our first illuminated night parade. So.
What time?
That is at 6:30. Let's just call it 6 o'clock so you get there early and get your spot in line, but it is 6:30.
And it will begin at Church Street here on the other side of the elementary school. Be no walkers, so that everybody's riding straight to the park. So that the Ultimate Disco Band, the Boogie Freaks, will be playing, and they're really good.
They are
really
good.
So I encourage you to come out.
You can bring your own golf cart?
All
Yes,
right.
for the parade.
Hold on.
We need a.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just have one request. Could y'all get a photograph of those ducks y'all have in a row and post them on the city website?
The ducks in a row. What's that?
Yeah.
What ducks? All right, I need a motion for.
Yep. So moved.
Motion to enter in the second council by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Ingham. At,
For real estate, correct?
You got the time. For real estate, yes, ma'am. 8:41.
That was unanimous?
Yes, ma'am. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you, sir.
I'll see you in there in a bit.
And Robbie.
I got this first box behind all.
Oh. I've been in here till 11 o'clock. Gracious.
We're going to trouble discuss things.
Do you have the paper from back here on the?
Yes, this one?
Yes, please.
Back there, you can only discuss real estate and staff.
And you got papers back there? Still got yours back there?
Yeah. Real estate and staff only back there.
You need both of them?
Open records.
Yeah, you need this one too?
Second. All right, we're back in,
Do it.
need a motion to go back? What do we need?
So moved.
Just need a motion to admit,
They come back into regular session,
Yep.
yes, sir.
So moved.
got a motion by Mr. Ingram, second
Second.
by Mr. Nascimento. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Nope.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
Coach?
So moved.
By
I bet
Mr.
you gotta vote
Rassi
again.
and Mr. Jones?
Yep.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 8:59.
Yes, I gave it to you.
Huh?
All right.